Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Dr. Jamil from the Physiology Department, and this is the second part of your cell membrane. In the first part, I have given you just the introduction of the cell membrane, the basic structure of the cell membrane, and there are three main ingredients of the cell membrane. One is it's made up of lipids, which are arranged as a bilayer, and lipid contain a top, or you can say head, in which the phosphate group and the glycerol is present. And then we have seen that the fatty acids, one is saturated one, other is unsaturated or the kinged one. And we have got the proteins in the cell membrane. And then we have seen that there is some cholesterol is present also in the cell. These are the basic ingredients of cell membrane. Here I am going to the more details of these things. As you know that the lipid is a bilayer structure of the cell membrane, it has got polar end. That means it has got some charge over it. And this charge acts as a barrier, this charge acts as a barrier for the different molecules to pass through. That means all the things having some charge, they cannot pass through the cell membrane. It acts as an obstruction, or it curbs the movement of the through this charge. So this charge acts as a barrier in the passage of different molecules. Then why this cell membrane, their arrangement is lipid bilayer, the lipid and the fatty acids and the phospholipids, they are arranged in an opposite direction, as you have seen in the previous diagrams. This is because outside the cell is a water, inside the cell there is a water, and we need to direct the hydrophilic part towards the water. That's why the hydrophilic part, or the part which contains the phosphate group, and the glycerol part, which is an hydrophilic part, water loving part. So that part is directed towards the water, whether it is outside the cell membrane or whether it is inside the cell membrane. While the fatty acids legs, or you can see the fatty acids chains, which are two in number, these chains, they are hydrophobic, that they have got fear phobia. That's why these are moved inside. So head or the top is towards the water on both sides, inside the cell water. That's why head is directed towards inside, as well as outside, because outside environment or the extracellular fluid also had caused water. So this is the reason that they are arranged in opposite direction. Then the phospholipids, they are also known as the amphipathic molecules. Amphipathic means they have got both the hydrophilic or the polar phosphate head and the true hydrophobic fatty acids. Any molecule which contains both the hydrophilic and hydrophobic molecules, they are known as amphipathic molecules. So these phospholipids are also known as amphipathic molecules. Then these cause them to orientate themselves so the phosphate head can interact with water and the fatty acid tail cannot, forming a bilayer. Then we move to the next slide. Now, cell membrane has got fluidity. I would like to explain that if you see your cell membranes can move like a wave. It is not a stagnant or a stationary, you can say, the part of the cell. It is always moving. It can move up and down. It can move here and there. So it has got fluidity. And this fluidity is more due to the presence of kink, due to the unsaturated bond. This is very important for the endo or exocytosis and the cell membrane biogenesis or the growth. Actually, these words may be the new, the endocytosis or the exocytosis. Endocytosis means when the cell want to engulf or eat something. So suppose a bacteria or suppose any other thing, the cell will send its membrane around that, and ultimately it is going to surround that foreign body or the bacteria or anything else. Then it will engulf inside it and it will digest it. So this process is known as endocytosis. And throughout this endocytosis process, your cell membrane is moving towards it, surrounded it, but it is not going to break down itself. It remains as a unit. Similarly, the case with the exocytosis. Once the cell is going to produce anything, like it is going to produce different types of channels or other proteins, these are cell has to export these things outside the cell, and this is known as the exocytosis. During that, although the things are passing through the cell membrane, and cell membrane is yet not going to break down. So this is again, yeah, due to the this is possible due to the fluidity of this cell membrane. Then this cell membrane, wherever there is increase in temperature, the fluidity is going to increase also. While increasing the cholesterol content of the cell membrane, it will decrease the fluidity. That means when the cholesterol is present between the fatty acids, or you can say between the legs of the balloon. Balloon is the top of the molecule and the legs which are below it. When the cholesterol is present that portion, so it is going to grip that legs, and the fluidity is going to be decreased, while the temperature increase in temperature is going to increase the fluidity of the cell membrane. Then lipid molecules can pass through the cell membrane easily. Lipid soluble molecules can pass through the cell membrane. Now we are going to see different types of channels and the transport proteins of the cells. I will go into the detail of this slide later on. So different type of the channels. What are those channels? We have got different types of the channels. For example, we have got sodium channels, we have got protein channels. First of all, these channels, they are made up of channel proteins. Here you can see the reddish area. These are the channel proteins, or these are the integrated proteins in which there is a hole. This is known as channel protein. We have got other type of the proteins. So we have got different mechanisms which are involved in which the molecules can pass through the channel. These channels are for the sodium, these channels are for potassium, for calcium, for hydrogen, and then we have got sodium potassium pump, we have got the calcium pumps. Well, these are the different examples of those channels. And after that we will see that how the molecules, they are being transported through these protein channels, or these channels which are made up of integral proteins, they are present or embedded within the cell membranes, and as I've given you the name. And these channels are further divided into the voltage gated channels. They are known as the ligand gated channels. There are different types of the channels. So I will go. For example, here is the difference between voltage gated ion channel and ligand gated ion channel. Ligand, what is meant by the ligand? Ligand is any substance which, when is going to attach with the outer portion of the channel protein, the inside of that protein is going to produce a conformational change in it, and ultimately that change will cause different kind of the action inside the cell membrane. Similarly, the case, sorry, ligand. These ligands may be the hormones. These ligands may be neurotransmitters. These ligands may be some drugs, or maybe there some toxins. All these ligands means whenever there is going to attach with a protein, these are usually going to attach with the peripheral proteins. Whenever they are attached with the outer part of the protein, inside part of with the part of that protein which is present inside the cell membrane, that inside the cytosol, it is going to change. It has gone under a conformational change. Conformational change in physiology means the change in conformed, but the basic mechanism we still don't know. That is known as the conformational change, and ultimately that conformational change will perform different functions. But at the same time, we will see the voltage gated channels. These types of the special channels, gated channels, which opens only in response to the voltage difference across the cell membrane. Whenever the voltage changes are going to occur, these are going to open. Keep in mind that the voltage gated channels, they are highly specific for a specific ion. For example, from the sodium channel, from the sodium voltage gated channel, potassium cannot pass through. or from the voltage gated sodium channel, calcium cannot pass through. For the potassium, we have got different voltage gated channel. For the calcium, we have got the different calcium voltage gated channels. But at the same time, if you look at the ligand gated channels, here these are the non-specific. They are non-specific. And here the examples I have given you, that the voltage gated channel, we have got sodium channels, potassium channels, calcium channels, while the ligands, they may be the neurotransmitter like acetylcholine, nicotine, cholinergic receptors, GABA, all the different types of drugs, glutamate, again neurotransmitter, glycine, again a neurotransmitter. So these all neurotransmitters or the hormones, they get attached with the ligand gated channels, and ultimately they show the effect inside of the brain. So this was all about the voltage gated channels, ligand gated channels, and at the same time there are some leak channels. They are especially very important for the potassium. Potassium have got the leak channels. That means, and potassium always move through the towards the concentration gradient. Suppose inside the cell there is a huge amount of the potassium is present. So the potassium is always moving out of the cell membrane. That's why cell membrane or cell is negative inside actually. Resting cell membrane potential is negative and cell inside is negatively charged. Why? Because most of the potassium, because this huge amount, I am saying that the large amount of potassium is stored inside the cell. So potassium is always trying to move out of the cell through leak channels. So there are some leak channels are also present. We will see later on how the sodium moves. So here is an example, a diagram of sodium and the potassium channels. At the top you will see this is your sodium channel, the resting state. It has got two gates which is going to cover this. One is from below, other is from above. From the above or outside, which is known as the activation gate, and this is lower portion is inactivation gate. In the normal resting state, the minus 90 millivolt. Why I am saying the minus 90? I have said earlier that the cell membrane, resting cell membrane potential is negative, is always negative, and this major portion of this negativity is due to the accumulation of movement of the positive ions, that is the potassium, through potassium leak channels outside the cell. When the positivity moves outside, inside become negative, and the other causes are also there like phosphate ions, like proteins, and these are also negatively charged parts. So cell become negative inside. Now again back to this portion. Let's see, this is the activation gate. Resting condition, the activation gate is closed. Sodium cannot move inside, while inactivation gate in resting condition is open one. Move to the next. When there is some voltage gated channel, suppose whenever there is some voltage changes, this activation gate is going to open one, and lower one is already open, so sodium can move easily inside. It will come inside. When the positive charge will move in, the membrane potential will convert from minus 90 to plus 35, because now the sodium is coming inside, and it whenever we want to close, we want to stop this movement, this this portion, this lower portion, which is known the inactivation gate, is going to close, and whenever it is going to close, this will be inactivated. Now no further sodium can move in, and later on when the cell will move into the resting state, again this gate is going to be closed, and this one is going to open. So this is the sodium channels. While you can see in the here is the potassium channel, it has got only the lower portion. This is the lower portion. Resting state, it is closed. Whenever it become whenever it is activated, but this gate is open and potassium has to move out. As I have told you, the potassium inside is more, is going to move out. So it has got only one gate, that is the lower portion. So this was in detail of your sodium potassium voltage gated channels. Now let's move onward, and that is how these molecules, sodium and potassium, calcium and the glucose, amino acids, chloride, hydrogen, how they are transported inside the cell membrane, or how they pass through the cell membrane. Before that, here is the analogy. I have taken it from the internet. This is an analogy. That means one is energy dependent and other is energy free. That means in some type of the transport we don't need any energy, no energy needed. And in this portion, here you can see we have got the passive transport, diffusion, osmosis, facilitated diffusion. We will see later on the details of all these. While we have got some processes in which we have to do the expenditure, energy expenditure. And this energy expenditure has got the active transport. That means we have to spend our currency, our money, we have to empty our pocket, and currency in the cell is your ATP, adenosine triphosphate ATP. We have to spend our ATPs. This active transport is of two types, the primary active transport and the secondary active transport. Let's see the details of all these things. Active transport. In the active transport, it is usually divided into two types according to the source of energy used to cause the transport. That means in the primary active transport, we use directly the ATP. We use directly the ATP. And in the secondary active transport, the ATP is utilized by something else, but at the same time, that thing is going to carry another molecule with it. So here in the secondary active transport, direct utilization of ATP is not there. In the primary active, directly you are going to utilize that ATP. With that example, we'll see primary active transport. They use the energy directly from the hydrolysis of the ATP. For example, sodium potassium pump, for example, calcium pump, hydrogen potassium pump, hydrogen proton pump. So these are the different pumps which pumps out different molecules from outside the cell into or from inside to the outside or within the cytosol to the organelles like calcium, where pumps into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. From the cytosol it picks up the calcium from the cytosol and pumps into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Sodium potassium pump, it will push out 3 sodium out and 2 potassium in. Similar the case with the hydrogen potassium pump. So these pumps utilizes energy directly, that is by the hydrolysis of the ATP. So that's why this is known the primary active transport. And here you see by that way we have got the name of sodium potassium pump. So you must know something or at least the function of this one. First of and very important function of sodium potassium pump is to maintain sodium potassium concentration different across the cell membrane. When we study the action potential in the next chapter of the nerve and muscle, in there we will see that when the action potential arrives, it will causes the movement of sodium inside the cell and ultimately with the sodium moves in and for the repolarization potassium moves out. Although you may not understand these things, but it will happen or you will see in the next chapter that at that time the sodium which is more outside the cell, potassium which is more inside the cell, but after the action potential all these things are changed and we have to maintain the normal concentration of potassium and sodium in and outside the cell, and this is done by your sodium potassium pump. Then when the sodium potassium concentration is maintained, it is also you can say attached with the maintenance of the volume of the cell. Then it causes negative electrical charge inside the cell, electrogenic pump. It causes negative electric charge inside the cell. That means actually this pump, what causes it, what its normal function, it pushes out two, it pushes out 3 sodium outside the cell. That means it picks up 3 sodium from inside the cell and pushes it out, while it takes 2 potassium from outside the cell and moves it inside the cell membrane. This is the main function. Then it causes negative, then essential for the oxygen utilization by the kidneys. And this function we will see in the chapter of the kidney. Then we have got the calcium pumps. These are the very important calcium pumps, and these calcium pumps are utilized to store the calcium. Actually, they are trying to store the calcium. The calcium ions are normally inside the cell. They are very, very small amount which is present inside the cell. And here it's given or written that 10,000 times it is less inside the cell as compared to the outside the cell or the extracellular environment. So this less amount of calcium inside the cell is done by the two primary active transporter pumps, calcium pumps. One of these pumps is present in the cell membrane and it pumps calcium out of the cell. So calcium pumps always try to pump the calcium out of the cell. Then another pump is present within the cell and it pumps the calcium from the you can say intracellular environment to the different organelles which are present within the cell, like sarcoplasmic reticulum, which are the storehouse of the calcium inside the cell. And whenever the action potential, this is very important in the cardiac muscle. Whenever the cardiac muscle needed more calcium for the soul, for the contraction, at that time the sarcoplasmic reticulum is going to release its calcium. So these are the two types of the calcium. One is present in the cell membrane and another is present in the within the cell. Then similar an example of the hydrogen potassium pumps, hydrogen potassium ATPase pump. These are the present mainly the two areas. In the stomach where the gastric glands, or it is present in the kidney, the renal tubules. And in the gastric, it is present in the gastric gland, the parietal cells. The HCl secretion pumps hydrogen ion into the gastric lumen in exchange for the potassium. All these are the examples from the chapters we will study in future. So I am not going to the details of all these things because at this stage you cannot understand what is the function of the intercalated cell, which are types of the intercalated cells. But keep in mind there is some hydrogen potassium ATPase pump. Here is you can see this is known as the counter transport. That is from cytoplasm towards the lumen. One hydrogen is moving into the lumen while against it one potassium is moving into the cytosol. So this is known the one is known the co-transport. In the co-transport both the molecules move simultaneously from in same direction, while the counter transport one molecule moves in the opposite direction of the second molecule. This is an example of the counter transport and this is occur in the renal tubules. Here you can see here the different here in the heart, which is known we have got a drug which is known as the digoxins. Digoxin is really commonly used in the heart failures. The basic mechanism of action of this one is that this digoxin is going to decrease the function of the sodium potassium pump. When the sodium potassium pump is not functioning properly, what will happen? The sodium will not move out. When the sodium will maintain in its concentration or the accumulation of sodium occurs inside the cell, what will do? It will causes there is another pump. There is another pump. There's intracellular accumulation of sodium. It will decrease the sodium gradient from outside to the inside. You can understand from this here in this direction. You can well understand this. So this is the sodium potassium pump. This digoxin of the cardiac glycoside is have a negative effect over this one. So when it will occur, the sodium which is moving out, now it is not moving out and it will remain in the cell. This will cause the increased function of the increased concentration of sodium inside. This increased concentration of sodium, it is going to cause another thing. It has got negative effect on the sodium calcium exchanger, which is present also on the cell membrane, sodium calcium exchanger. That means this will cause calcium through this exchanger normally calcium moves out and sodium moves in. So when this sodium calcium exchanger is reduced in its function due to the high concentration of sodium, and this is because of the decreased function of sodium potassium pump, ultimately what's going to happen? Increased sodium, here, and it is going to have a negative effect on sodium calcium exchanger. Ultimately this calcium is not moving out. This calcium is not moving out, and intracellular calcium concentration is going to be increased. At the same time, this your sarcoplasmic reticulum, it release the calcium out. So the net shell effect is that we have got more and more concentration of calcium inside the cell. And whenever calcium is more inside the cell, it will cause the increased contraction of the cardiac muscle. Force of contraction increase. So this is, although this example is quoted because we have got practical effects of different drugs over these channels or over these pumps. One of the good example is the your digoxin, which decrease the function of the sodium potassium pump. Ultimately this will occur in the heart cardiac muscles. Ultimately the force of contraction is increased. And here the same things are given, that the sodium potassium pump function decrease, accumulation of intracellular sodium, it will cause increased calcium entry through the calcium channels and the prevention extrusion. All these things you can see. Then ultimately intracellular calcium is increased, and then at the same time when this will happen, more calcium is released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum and more calcium during each depolarization. So net force and velocity of contraction is increased. This is the diagrammatic representation of your sodium potassium pump. So here you can see in the first diagram, this is number 1. You will see this the inside the cytoplasm, the extracellular fluid, and this is your here it has got three portions. This is actually theoretical one. It is going to accommodate 3 sodium inside, and then we will see these are the 2 vacant areas, and these are for the potassium. When the sodium will join or be seated towards seats the 3 sodium, then what will happen? These open in a reverse direction. All these 3 sodium, they will move out. At the same time, the 2 potassium from the extracellular fluid, they will join their seats here, and then what will happen? It will open inside the cell, and these 2 potassium will be released in the last one. It will be released inside the cell. So this is the normal function of the sodium potassium pump. Then what are the ligands? I have told you earlier. What is the receptor? Although one thing very important, receptors. These receptors are macromolecules present on the cell membrane. After binding some ligand, they produce some conformational change inside the cell. We have got a lot of receptors like insulin receptors. Different hormones have got different receptors. Some receptors are present on the cell membrane, some are not present on the cell membrane, but some are present in the nucleus membrane. So there are different receptors. We have got the different ligands. So this was all about the cell membrane and transport through the cell membrane. We will see later on the different organelles in the nucleus in the next coming chapters. Thank you very much.